All right, so today we're diving deep into something that's always kind of puzzled people,
Yeah.
ethics. But
Right.
don't worry, we're not going all like super academic and stuffy about it.
No.
We're going to be looking at it through the eyes of two of the biggest thinkers
That's right.
in philosophical history,
Exactly.
Confucius and Aristotle.
Yeah, and it's so interesting that these two guys,
Yeah,
living worlds and worlds apart and in totally different times,
totally.
both came to this idea of virtue ethics, which is this idea that being good
Right.
isn't about just like following a set of rules.
Right.
It's about building up certain character traits.
I like that. So to help us out on this journey today, we have this great article from Big Think.
Yes.
It's called Confucius versus Aristotle: What the Two Philosophers Teach Us About Ethics.
Great article.
And we're going to use this as our guide
Yeah.
as we kind of unpack how these two guys thought we should live our lives.
I think of it almost like we're going on a journey
Ooh.
with these two philosophers,
Yeah.
And we're going to see where their paths kind of come together,
Yeah.
where they split apart,
Right.
and hopefully pick up some wisdom along the way that we can use in our own lives.
Nice. So let's set the stage a little bit. So Confucius, the Chinese philosopher and politician,
Yes.
he was all about like social harmony, right?
Yeah, definitely.
He had this idea of lif,
Yes.
which we usually translate as like propriety or ritual.
Right, lif is like the core of Confucius's thinking,
Okay.
but it's a lot deeper than just like outward behavior.
Okay.
It's almost like you could think of it as a really complex dance
Okay.
where every step, every little movement has meaning and importance.
Right.
But the real beauty of it
Mm-hmm.
is like the emotion and the intention behind each of those moves.
Okay. I'm starting to get it.
Right.
So it's not just about like, bowing the right way when you greet someone.
That's right.
It's about like the feeling behind it,
Yeah, exactly.
like the respect you're showing.
Exactly. Confucius thought that every ritual,
Okay.
whether it was some big ceremony or just like a little act of politeness,
Uh-huh.
it all had to be filled with real, genuine feeling.
Wow.
He even paid attention to like tiny details,
Why?
like how offerings were arranged on an altar,
Okay.
or how long people would mourn after someone died.
Huh.
He saw all of that as like
I'm-
showing your values,
Yeah.
like a reflection of what was going on inside you.
So for him, Lin wasn't just about like following the rules.
No.
It was about cultivating a way of being,
Yes.
both inside yourself
Yeah,
and in how you interact with everyone around you.
exactly. And that focus on the social side of being good.
Okay.
That's a big thing that sets Confucius apart from Aristotle,
Interesting.
who was also all about virtue ethics,
Uh-huh.
but had a slightly different way of looking at things.
God. Now, Aristotle,
Yeah,
he's the Greek philosopher
that's him.
who seemed to have something to say about everything, right?
Yeah, it seems like that.
From logic to politics to, ethics.
Exactly.
So tell me about him.
Well, for Aristotle,
Okay.
becoming virtuous,
Uh,
it was about developing good habits.
okay.
And he had a name for this. It was called hexis. Yeah, think about it, like practicing any kind of skill.
Okay.
The more you do it
Yeah.
with the right kind of focus and intention,
Right.
the better you get at it.
Right.
And eventually it just becomes like second nature. It's
Yeah.
just a part of who you are.
Okay, so let's say, like, I want to be more courageous.
Okay.
Aristotle would say it's not about waiting for, like, some big heroic moment.
Right.
It's about looking for those little everyday moments.
Yes.
Where I can practice being brave.
Exactly.
Like, even in small ways.
Yeah.
Like, maybe speaking up when I see something unfair.
That's a good one.
Or standing up for what I believe in.
Yeah.
Even when it's hard.
Exactly. For Aristotle, being virtuous,
Okay.
it was about making the right choices over and over again.
Yeah.
Honing those virtues
Yeah.
until they become like habits,
Right?
part of your character, your hexis.
Your hexes.
And you know what's interesting?
What's that?
He thought this applied even to animals.
Really?
Yeah, he thought animals could develop habits too.
Huh.
Though obviously not as complex as human ones.
So for Aristotle, virtue is more about individual development.
Yes.
Like that inner process of working on your character.
Exactly.
But Confucius, he saw it as like really connected to how you interact with other people
That's right.
and the rituals that kind of shape those interactions.
Yeah, that's a really key difference.
Okay.
And another thing is, Lee is always seen as a good thing.
Okay.
But Aristotle knew that hexis could also be a bad habit.
Huh.
Like, if you lie all the time,
Right.
you're basically building up dishonesty.
Uh-huh.
That's a bad hexis, not a virtue.
So we've got these two approaches to virtue ethics.
Right.
Confucius with his idea,
Uh-huh.
saying social harmony is important.
Yes.
And rituals are really important for shaping who we are.
Yeah, both inside and out.
And then there's Aristotle
Yes.
focusing on hexis.
Right.
This idea that we build good habits
Yeah.
through doing the right thing again and again
That's it.
and having the right motivation behind it.
And you know what?
But-
It's surprising, but these two philosophies actually work together really well in some way.
Oh, really?
Yeah, but we'll get into that more in part 2 of our deep dive.
Okay, can't wait. Okay, so we've got Confucius, the master of like ritual
Yes.
and social harmony.
That's right.
And then we've got Aristotle, the champion of habit
Yeah.
and developing good character as an individual.
Right.
And they both think virtue is like the key to the good life.
That's it. And it's fascinating
Yeah.
because Professor Kevin DeLapp, who wrote the article we're looking at,
Right.
he says that if we focus on the ways lie and hexis are alike,
Okay.
it can actually help us get a better grasp on both of these philosophies.
So they kind of like work together.
It's like they're two different lenses
Okay.
that we can use to look at the same problem,
I see.
and each one shows us something
Uh-huh.
that the other one might miss.
Okay, that's cool. How does that work?
Well, let's take honesty as an example.
Okay.
Aristotle would say that if you want to be more honest,
Right.
you have to practice telling the truth
Right.
all the time,
Okay.
even when it's tough.
Okay.
And if you do that over and over again
Right.
with the right intentions,
Okay.
honesty will eventually just become a habit.
Right.
Like it'll be a part of your hexes.
But wouldn't Confucius say something about like the social side of honesty too?
Oh, absolutely.
Like it's not just about being truthful to yourself.
Right.
It's about knowing how your honesty affects other people.
Exactly.
The trust it builds, or maybe the trust it breaks down in your relationships.
Right. Confucius would really stress that honesty
Yeah.
isn't just about what you do on your own.
Right.
It's about how you act with your family, your community, even with society as a whole.
Wow.
He'd say that lie is about building harmony in society,
Okay.
and honesty is a big part of making that happen.
So it's like Aristotle gives you the playbook for becoming honest yourself.
Yeah,
But Confucius shows you how to use that honesty when you're out in the world.
exactly. It's that connection between individual growth
Okay.
and the social context.
Mm-hmm.
That's where the two philosophies really start to click.
Okay.
DeLapp even says that people who follow Aristotle's way of thinking
Okay.
could learn something from Confucianism
What's that?
to pay more attention to the little things they do every day
Okay.
with their families and in their daily routines, because those everyday interactions can actually be chances to practice being virtuous.
So it's like instead of just trying to control your temper in general,
Right.
you start paying attention to how you react.
Yeah.
Your kid spills juice on the rug.
Exactly.
Or your partner forgets to pick up the dry cleaning.
Yeah.
Those little moments become like your training ground for patience.
I like that.
Yeah. And then on the other hand,
Right.
people who are really focused on lie,
Yeah.
with all its emphasis on ritual
Right.
and social harmony,
Right.
they can learn something from Aristotle's focus on what's going on inside. Oh, okay.
So you're saying it's not enough
Right.
to just go through the motions of a ritual.
Right.
You have to really feel it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Let's say you're at a wedding.
Okay.
Confucius would say,
Yeah.
follow the traditions, offer your best wishes with sincerity.
Right.
But then Aristotle might chime in and say,
Yeah.
take a look at your heart.
Go ahead.
Are you really happy for the couple?
Right.
Or are you just putting on a show?
He's checking our motives.
He's reminding us
Right.
that true lie
Yeah.
has to come from real virtue,
Mhm.
not just doing what's expected of you.
It's like they're both pushing us towards this balance
Yeah.
where our inner goodness shapes what we do in the world.
And how we interact with other people shapes how we understand virtue.
And that brings us to something really important.
What's that?
Both Confucius and Aristotle believed that you don't just become virtuous overnight.
Yeah.
It's something you work on your whole life.
Right.
It's like climbing a spiral staircase.
Yeah.
You're always going up, but each time you go around,
Yeah.
you get a new view,
Right.
a deeper understanding.
So we never really arrive.
It's not about reaching some perfect state of virtue and then stopping.
Right.
It's about always trying,
Yeah.
always learning,
Yeah.
always changing how we think about what it means to live a good life. And that journey of figuring out how to live ethically,
Yeah.
it's something that's deeply personal,
Okay.
but it's also tied to the world around us.
It's amazing how relevant these guys still are,
Right.
even after all this time.
Like they really understood something deep about people,
Yeah.
like that desire we all have
Uh.
to live good lives, to be good people.
But figuring out what that actually means
Right.
That can be tough.
It's not easy.
Life throws you curveballs.
Yeah.
And there's no like rule book for every ethical situation.
And that's where I think these philosophies are so helpful.
Okay.
They give us like frameworks for thinking about these tough situations, for looking at our own motives and actions, and for making choices that match up with what we believe in.
But how do we actually do that?
Yeah.
I mean, how do we take these super old ideas and use them in our lives today?
Yeah. Good question.
Like Confucius didn't have to deal with social media influencers.
That's true.
Or cryptocurrency scams.
No, he didn't.
Right.
But the things he talked about, sincere respect, that idea that we're all connected, those things are timeless.
Okay, I see that.
Think about how much conflict online comes from people not being sincere or not being respectful.
Totally.
How often do we forget that what we do online even have effects in the real world?
It's like, even though technology changes, the way people interact, that stays the same.
Exactly. And Aristotle's idea about habits, that's more important than ever these days.
Why is that?
Well, we have so much information coming at us.
Yeah.
So much stimulation. It's easy to get caught up in instant gratification.
Right.
And forget about the long term.
Okay.
But Aristotle reminds us that real character, it comes from doing the right thing consistently. From making those small choices every day. That match up with what you believe in.
So being intentional.
Exactly.
Seeing those little chances to practice being patient.
Yeah.
Courageous.
Even in small ways.
Right.
It's about noticing those moments where you could take the easy way out. Or you could do the more virtuous thing. And then pushing yourself to choose the harder path.
It's like working out a muscle. The more you use it, the stronger it gets.
There's a quote at the end of our article that I think sums this up perfectly.
Let's hear it.
It says, despite their antiquity, Aristotle and Confucius remain fantastic companions for reflecting upon and practicing how to live an ethically meaningful life.
I love that. It's like these guys aren't just some old philosophers from a long time ago.
Exactly.
Their ideas are still alive.
They're relevant.
And they can actually help us live better, more meaningful lives.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, we want to leave you with this thought. What really stuck with you from what we talked about today?
Yeah, what got you thinking?
Maybe it was Confucius's thing about rituals and social harmony.
Right.
Or Aristotle's focus on habits and character.
Whatever it was.
Yeah.
Hold on to that.
Explore it.
Yeah.
See how you can bring those ideas into your own life.
Because at the end of the day, living ethically, it's a personal journey.
It is
a lifelong process of figuring out how to be your best self in the world.
We hope this deep dive has given you some good tools and some inspiration for that journey.
Thanks for joining us.